All right. So let's start at the concepts all over again, and then we will go a little faster now. The references are these. You can, I think the best book to learn thread is, there are many actually. Anderson is nice book. You can go through a chapter from this one. And I have implementation is very well given. Linux implementation of thread in 3 pieces book. And I have also like Tannenbaum's book. I mean, of late I have started reading this, so it's quite nice for the second time reading. I mean, once you have gone through these concepts, then you can go through the chapter from this one. Okay, all right. So far we have studied the basic concept of process and thread. Okay, so on the left is single threaded process. Okay, there is one instruction sequence that is in execution, that's shown here. Okay, and then we have seen that if you stop a process at any instant of time, then that state will be defined by various things, which is nothing but registers, program counter value, or which instructions to be executed next, and the history of the execution. History of the execution of processes in the stack. Okay, all the variables, etc., that have been various values of variables is there in the stack, and as well as in heap, right? Okay, so we have also this code, data, and files, right? So files means the file descriptors, open files. Okay, and when we say processes, then in the same address space we run multiple threads. Okay, so a process contains multiple threads. The same code is being used, but different threads may have different value of PC at any instant of time. Take a snapshot, then different threads may have different values of PCs, may also have different values of registers. Okay, and so on. Okay, however, they share code, data. Data, when we say, is nothing but global data, and also heap, and various files which are open. Okay, so this we have discussed enough in last class. Okay, all right. This was another view that something that is a thread will have its own registers, its own value of program counter, and its own history of various variables, etc. Okay, various return values, etc. in the stack. Okay, and then also okay, something that's common across all these threads is this part, the code, data, and files. When we say data, as we mentioned, static data as well as heap. Okay, so only thing that's private to thread is this area, which is various values of registers. Because let's assume that 3 threads are running on 3 processors, then each will have different values of registers, different values of program counters, because they may be exactly not synced. They may be running ahead or behind some other process. Okay, and so whatever computation is done in the past is there in the stack. Okay, so all these 3 things define this is private to a stack. Okay, this is another view which I have added. So this is one process, one thread, where in the right side we have one process and multiple threads. Now, so when we run processes alone, like in older systems, we have processes and not threads. Then if you have to execute the even same code concurrently, then you have to make 2 copies of the process. Okay. While here we have multiple threads in a process, so there can be multiple processes containing multiple threads. Okay. If you, for example, fork this process, and then essentially you will get multiple threads of this kind. Okay. Or you can run different processes, each containing different kinds of threads. All combinations are possible. All right. Okay. I hope you understood the concept of thread by now. Is there anyone who
Yes, sir.
anybody who couldn't understand it? Anyone? Okay, so let's
Sir,
move. Yeah, go ahead.
if we have single processor system, so there will be no advantage of thread, or there will be there.
Why not?
So because the process will complete in the, it will take the same time.
So it's like this, that when one thread is doing IO, second thread can continue to do other things, right? See, it's like this,
Sure.
that all threads are not exactly synchronized, right? They are running ahead and below, may not be doing the same computation. One may be doing, part of the code is executing, which corresponds to IO. Second thread may be doing computing. Third thread may be, looking at the messages that are coming in. So then multiple threads are in execution concurrently on a single process. So when one thread, for example, the thread started doing IO, so that's blocked. Then second thread, which is doing computation, can execute. Okay. Now you have to just visualize this just within a process. If your program is structured, you could structure your program in such a way that it has basic natural parallelism inherent into it. Then you can create multiple threads, and then these threads can exploit whatever concurrency or whatever CPU time is available. Okay, imagine that you write a single process, just single thread, a single process doing all 3-4 things, IO, and as soon as that IO is being done, the thread will block. And then of course CPU might bring in other process, but with respect to just one particular process, having multiple thread could be beneficial for the process. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So if there are, you can always say that multiple processes, if one process is blocked, then we switch to other process and so on. Yes, but that's other process. But for a single process, where domain is the same. When you say domain is a problem, is basically they are collaborating with each other to solve a problem, right? Then is beneficial. Let's look. Let's go ahead and then come to the same answer a little later. Why do we need thread? This question may be asked to you in interview. You may answer this, that first thing is that there are many programs that requires which naturally exhibit concurrency or parallelism. Okay, one example last class we have seen is the web for web page or web server, right? If just one process, when input request comes and then the process goes and tries to get the block or page from hard disk, then it will block. Then all other incoming requests will not be honored. Okay, so in that case, performance may not be good with respect to user responsiveness. So now, see if we can create multiple threads that are doing multiple tasks concurrently, even though there is a single processor. Okay, so for example, when first request is getting, the process, the main process that receives a request hands over task to other process to get the page from hard disk. Okay, then that process, then the whole IO thing is happening separately, right? At that time, thread can continue, the same thread on other thread can continue to do some work. All right. So many tasks that we have is they exhibit parallelism. Second thing is, of course, is that multiple threads can run on multiple processors, multiple cores. Then, of course, we get advantage of parallel processing. Third is, of course, as a side effect of all this is that maintain responsiveness. See, for example, as we said in case of web page, one process can just handle incoming requests from users. Okay, so user will feel that there is a faster response, and then it can for example, splitting commands and spawn threads to do work in background. All right, so the main thread can hand over work to background threads, or create the background thread, and that can do IO. Okay, to mask long latency of IO devices. That's, of course, we have discussed just now. So threads are natural way of avoiding getting stuck, because whenever it makes a system call or something, then it will get stuck, right? So instead of that, other threads can continue to run. Okay, and of course, why? So that point we'll discuss little later. These points. Okay, threads are generally lightweight. So data sharing, because they have a lot of things in common. So data sharing is very simple. So inter-thread communication is very simple. Okay, and then okay, while processes are good when they are doing logically separate tasks, disconnected task if they have to do, then you cannot create threads in that case, because they are doing different things. So maybe some processes may compete with each other, right? So if very different tasks are there which are not related to each other, we do it in terms of process. But the related tasks which are helping each other, or sort of combined effect is better performance and better response, etc., then we create threads. All right, and good thing about thread is that they are faster. They are easy to create and destroy than processes, because users the process image remains the same, only we need to add one stack. Okay, and of course a TCB, or thread control block, or thread table, okay, that needs to be created. So creating a thread is 10 to 100 times faster than creating a process. And same applies for thread switching from one thread to another thread. That is a context switching, right? Is many times faster than that in case of process. All right, this point we have already discussed. Responsiveness is better in case of threads. All right, so multi-threaded program is in fact a generalization of some basic programming model. It's fine, where each thread follows a single sequence. Yeah, any question? All right. All right, so these points we have already discussed. A program can have several threads in execution at the same time, and this is the view of a single thread, right, which is like a program. So all threads within a process share the following. Now here we have just single thread here. They share heap, global area, and libraries. Okay, so this part and initialize data, code and data. Okay, this may also be heap. Okay, so these things are shared by each thread. Okay, and something which is personal or private to each thread is program counter, stack, and register values. All right, so here now we have created two threads in a process, right? So process address space remains the same. Something that's shared by them is this area and this area. Okay, and this is private to first thread, this is private to second thread. And of course, along with this, various values of registers, program counter, etc. Right? And all these things are in most of the implementation. These are stored in separate thread table. When thread moves out, it's stored in thread table, or we call it TCB, thread control blocks. It's similar to process control block. Okay, when thread is in execution, of course, this thread table or TCB contents will when thread starts, then it will move into processor. Processor execution happens when thread execution happens when thread moves out. These values are stored in thread table or TCB. Okay, all right. Any question? All right, so let's move ahead. So suspending a process involves suspending all threads. Okay. So OS suspends one process. Suspending, note that suspension is different from termination. Suspension is, it means that because of timer interrupt or because of something, some other reason, processes or thread is stopped or process is stopped. When process is suspended, then obviously all the threads inside that are suspended. Okay. Similarly, if OS terminates the process that's running multiple threads, then automatically all threads are terminated. All right. Okay. Makes sense. So if you stop a program that's running if you stop a process that's running two threads, okay, so you'll get structure like this. So you'll get two sets of CPU register, two sets of stacks. Okay. Now, of course, you can ask certain questions. How do you position stacks relative to each other? I mean, if these are too close, then one stack can overwrite over the other, right? And if it is too, distance is too much, then we are wasting space. So different OSs tries to say what could be the maximum length of a stack. Okay, and based on that, it can decide what should be gap between two stacks. Does it mean that one stack cannot overwrite over other? In case of thread, that's not guaranteed. Okay, deliberately also a thread can overwrite the stack of other. Okay, what does it mean then? A thread can overwrite a stack of other threads. This is possible, right? There's no privacy between threads. Absolutely no privacy, right? So it means that now this has to be taken care of by the developer. But if developer wants to exploit this feature, then they can exploit it. All right. Threads can violate this. If it violates, it violates. Ultimately, it's the programmer who has done the programming. But note that processes cannot do this. One process cannot see what is inside other process stack. Okay, because they are into different address space. Any question? Any question comes to your mind?
Sir,
Mm-hmm.
so whenever we are saving the thread, then does we are saving only the stack pointer or whole stack?
See, go back to computer architecture course, right? You have to flush the pipeline. You have to flush. The moment you bring in another thread into play, okay, it's different in execution, right? Different point in sequence is in execution or different instruction is being, so whole context for that is different. So all the and when you suppose when we move certain things out, one thread out, and after some time you'll bring it in because it has to start exactly from same place. So the state has to be same when it has moved out. So we have discussed in last semester what defines a state of a processor. Okay, it's not only which instruction is executing, which is a program thing or program counter, but also various values of registers. And also, see, stack pointer is usually in TCB, thread control block, from where we load into the system. Okay,
So-
when we, yeah, tell me.
So thread control block only contains the stack pointer, or it contains all the variables which are stored in stack?
Okay, we discussed this earlier also. I will repeat. All the variables may not be that's in execution. Program is being execution. You can use 200 variables or 1000 variables. Nobody stops you. Did you ever come across anything which says that number of variables can be equivalent to number of registers? No. The registers is only scratch pad or where temporary values are. You while ALU is in execution, you move the values from registers and bring it from main memory. Okay, so if you take the snapshot, if you want to define a thread, then in completion, then it has got to have various values of variables. It will be where it will be. It will be in a stack. It's a runtime stack or user stack corresponding to that thread. Okay, the one which is shown here. All variables will be there. And where will be the register values? Program counter and registers, etc. It cannot be here because it's not the way we store it here. It goes into a separate place which we call is thread control block. In case of process, we call it process control block. Okay, which is different data structure. Okay, or also we call it kernel table, but imagine this as a different data structure. Now the other, okay, so remember that processor state or state of the thread that is in the processor register, all the values of register, which includes extract pointer and program counter, goes to a data structure. Okay, and all the remaining variables, etc., remain in the user stack. Note that this is in user space, right? This address space is user space. It means that process can read anything in that. All right, or a thread can read anything. Anything in this one can be accessed by thread. Okay, of course, a part of this can also be mapped to OS, but we are not discussing it right now. All right. Okay, so let's start now. Okay, please feel free to ask questions because I know it's very confusing. At times it took me more than few weeks to understand the concept. Okay, so it's very confusing because it's totally new paradigm. Okay, so now let's discuss thread versus processes, and we are discussing this largely because you should be able to answer questions that are being asked in interviews, right? This we have already discussed. Okay, so when something that's personal to thread is PC value, registers, and execution stack, or the stack that we have seen just now, right? This stack. Execution stack is where variables will go like this. Okay, all right. This is private to a thread. Okay, multi-threading we have already discussed. Multi-threading concept is there when there are multiple threads in a process. All right, so this helps us. Okay. Okay, at this point we have already discussed the different threads are not as independent as different processes. Okay, threads need to cooperate with each other because they address the same address space, and then each thread can access anything. You know, one thread can access other threads data area. Heap is anyway common, right? So a thread can read, one thread can read, say for example, memory area through malloc or whatever other thread has created. That's very simple. Global variables, it can change. Okay, so when do you do thread programming in general, global variables are avoided as much as possible, because you know, if you're writing into global variable, then it becomes very messy. You know, who then we need to synchronize who has written, who can write there. Okay, all right. So it's generally not easy to do multi-threading programming, because you'll have to think that you know, one thread is not messing up with the results created by other thread. Okay, so there's a reason thread must cooperate. There is no protection between threads of a process. Okay, when we say threads in general, we are talking about threads of a process. So you know, counter argument could be, if suppose there is a thread in one process, there is another thread in second thread in some other process, then of course they are protected, because processes are protected from each other. One process cannot access the data of other process. Okay, of course when we study inter-process communication, we'll see how to do that, but in general, process gives the concept of protection. Okay, all right. Okay, so threads must cooperate and they shouldn't fight with each other, and threads can share same set of open files, child processes, alarm signals, and so on. Okay, so all right, so now this gives another view of the same thing that we have discussed. So per process, items are address space, global variables, open file, pending items, signals handlers, accounting information. Okay, so within a process, all the threads have access to all this. There's a point is being mentioned, right? So it's a little confusing, but all threads of a process have access to all these things, right? However, something that's personal to thread are these. Okay, all right. So if a thread opens a file, it's visible to all threads, so they can read and write into it. So what are we trying to achieve with threads? Ability for multiple threads to share set of resources so that they can work together closely to perform some tasks. Okay, so they have these all resources are common to all this, all the threads of a process, all these resources, right? So they must work together such that they perform a task, and they are part of that task, maybe doing different things. Okay, any question?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
The threads are all part of a single process. So they will have the same process ID, right?
Yeah.
And so then how do we differentiate between the different threads? Like, is there a thread ID or?
Yeah, we'll come to all programming part later, right?
Okay.
Of course, anything that needs to be distinguished, schedule. We discussed that threads are schedulable items, right? That can be scheduled. Okay, so if something can be scheduled, has got to have some name or identifier, right? Otherwise, you cannot schedule it. So there is thread ID. Okay, we'll come to that little later. Okay, and these are exactly same points we have discussed. Go through it though. Okay, processing all these points we have discussed, including at least one thread a process must have. Otherwise, so basically, I mean, process actually is a thread in some sense. If a single thread in a process is, there's no distinction between the two. This point we have already discussed. If process dies, all its resources are reclaimed and its threads also die. Okay, when the process terminate, then all the threads inside that are also terminated. Now, inter-process communication via, okay, inter-process communication in between processes is a complicated thing. Okay, because they have different address space. So the first process, second process, and they are independent. There's nothing common in between, right? So then we have to create something called shared memory or message passing that we'll study later. However, in case of thread, inter-process communication is very simple, right? Because it's just they are part of same address space. So some area, if they decide where one can read, other can write, or they can read and write, then they can communicate with each other, right? So it's generally very simple. And when a thread dies, then a stack is reclaimed. Okay, it means that the thread, that stack that for that specific thread is removed. Who will remove this? Okay, if it's we'll come to that point later. If thread is being managed by OS, then OS will manage it. If it's being managed by runtime library, then runtime library's responsibility or runtime environment to do this. Okay. Okay, so each process is isolated from each other. This point we have discussed. So each process can run on different processor. This is also fine. But each thread can also run on different processor. There's no issue about it. Creation of process is expensive. Process creation and context switching is expensive. While it is it's cheap or inexpensive in case of thread. Okay. This is another slide, exactly similar points, right? Context switching is expensive. In case of thread is low cost. Okay, virtual memory creation, in case when we do context switching, if you look at it, right? So we have to also bring in page table entries. Okay, or page table corresponding to that process, new process which is being switched. Okay, while if we within a process, if we are just switching threads, then all that is not required. Page table is already loaded. It's part of the same virtual memory. Okay, so that also saves time. Security, of course, we have discussed that in case of process, high security. In case of thread, there is no security. All threads can see each other what they are doing. Okay. Overheads, of course, is high in case of process, where it's low in case of threads. Okay, all right, okay. Okay, let's move ahead. Similar to, we have studied process life cycle. Okay, similarly, threads also have very similar life cycle. Actually, it can't be any different, right? So threads will also have TCB, thread control block, or which we also call sometimes thread table. Also, they also have execution stack, same as the one which you have just studied, right? And thread metadata, thread ID, owner, scheduling priority, which will go here. Okay, in the thread table or TCB. Okay, so these are usually what thread will have. I mean, you'll have to have, there has got with thread ID, it also has got to know who is the owner, like process owner, similarly thread owner. Okay, which is nothing but same as process owner. Also, it will know about its children and its parent. Okay, and then some other things like scheduling priority, etc. All right. So the table, the diagram is simple. Is init, initial state. Okay, then thread creation happens. You can see that there is a system call thread create. Okay, in case threads are being managed or created by OS. Okay, otherwise library will manage it. And then it comes to ready state. It means now it can be is ready for execution, or it can be moved into processor is ready for execution, right? And then when scheduler schedules it, then it starts running. Now, after some time, because of either thread can itself yield, if it runs instruction called yield, it means that now it wants to stop. Note that threads are all executing in cooperation with each other, right? They are friendly, right? So now thread may have an instruction called yield. It means that now I want to stop. Let other threads run. Okay. If that happens, it means that it can still execute. It can still run, but it's deliberately yielding. So in that case, thread state will change to ready state. Okay. Now if thread does IO, okay, or thread executes this join system call, it means that we have seen this concept of in case of process, right? A process may wait for its children to complete or die. Okay, so here a thread can have a call called as thread join, or it can be for IO. Okay, then it can come to waiting state, and when that is over, then IO is over or the join is over, then again it is ready for execution. Okay, and finally thread may exit of its own when it completes its execution of whatever it comes to end, or by exit system call. Okay, all right, is it clear? Any question? Okay, hope is clear to all of you, right?
Sir,
Huh.
hello. So what happens to thread in zombie state?
Oh, don't worry. Let's not jump into it, right? We'll come to all these concepts. Just hold it for some time. Okay, we'll come to that. Basically, same TCB will be released little later. Okay, we'll come to that. Okay, so basically, when it thread executes a system call, question is that it's all information about it, can it be released immediately or not? So similar to process, is information about that is kept, because when there is a join, it means that it must pass that some value to thread that has called the wait. So after an exit, state may be retained for some time until it's used, otherwise cleaned up by OS or library at the end. All right. So basically same concept applies to thread as it is in case of process. However, different. Note that when we say concepts are similar, but different OSs have, these concepts slightly different from each other, right? I mean, but overall philosophy remains the same. For example, when we fork a process in case of a Linux or Unix, if you want to create another process which is running different code, then what we do? We first run fork, and then we use another system called exec. Okay, so basically two-step process. In Windows, it's just single-step process. Okay, so there will be some difference. Okay, all right. So when we discuss all these, we are actually most of the time we are talking about Linux. Okay. All right, and different OSs, as we mentioned, could be doing these things differently. So these states anyway we have already studied: init state, ready state, running state. Okay, and because of transition, for example, ready to running state, all the concepts that we have studied in case of process also applies here, right? For example, when it's ready state, it means the processor state, all the values registers are there in TCB, and in order to run that thread, then we'll have to bring those values into processor. Okay, so copying is register from TCB to processor registers and so on. And when we moved from ready to running state, we do same thing. All registers are stored in TCB and so on. Okay. Okay. These points already we have discussed. Running state to ready state, it can happen because of several things as we discussed earlier. And one of these is thread voluntarily gives the processor, right, by calling thread yield. Okay. Similarly, the transitions are given for waiting state and finished state, right? So basically same thing. So this, let's move ahead because all these things we have discussed several times earlier. Okay. This also we have discussed in some way or other. So this shows the location of threads per thread state. Okay, different threads are running. Okay, and then when thread is switched out or switched in, is state, say let's assume at this time instant T1 needs to be either stored or brought in into processor, right? So what will be that thread per thread state? Okay, when thread is in init state is being created, then basically TCB will be created with some initialized values, right? When thread is ready, it was ready to run. Okay, so it means that now all the values of register etc are there in TCB. Okay, let's assume thread has been switched out, then those is at that time instance of switching out, all the values registers etc are stored in TCB. When it's running, okay, then it's part of running list, and then all the values of registers are there in processor. So all the register values are in the processors, right? And when it's in a waiting stage, it's waiting for some event, right? It's waiting for printer or something or some variable, which you call a synchronization variable list. Then it is again is in TCB. Okay, when it's finished, okay, finished list then deleted. Okay, finished list is there's nothing called finished list, right? And then state of that may be in TCB for some time that we discussed just few moments earlier, until thread that has created or OS wants to use that information. It is retained for some time or it can be deleted. All right. Okay, any question? Okay. So in brief, we will study thread implementation structures, TCB and execution stack. So now this diagram looks familiar to you. Okay. This is here we have okay. So something that is shared across threads is heap, global variable and code that we have studied several times before. Per thread state will be in two places. All the registers, program counter, etc. will go to thread control block. Okay, that thread control block is managed by OS. Let's assume that thread is managed by OS, so it's part of OS. Okay, and it will also have, so it will have values of registers, etc. and thread metadata like thread ID, priority, etc. All this information will be thread control block. Okay, and it will also have pointer to the stack. Okay, all right. Otherwise, that let's say there are multiple frames corresponding to different procedures which have been called, then it has to point to the topmost of the stack, right? Topmost element of the stack, topmost element of the topmost frame. Okay, so it will point it to this one. All right. So this is a process here. The multiple, you can see multiple frames here. And you know why multiple frames are needed? A thread may be calling another a procedure, right, or function, and that function might have called the third function. Okay, here is just one frame. It means that it's running into the function, that function itself. Any question? Okay, all right, let's move on. Threads execution stack, anyway, you know about it, right? How does it work? Last course, architecture course, we discussed this. Okay, it's same as that single threaded process computation, right? It stores the information needed by nested processes concurrently running. Okay, for example, a thread calls foo, and then foo calls bar, then bar calls bus, and so on, right? So there'll be, this stack will contain local variables up to the point where this call is made, and then it will also contain the address of the next instruction that is to be executed, right? Okay, so okay, sorry, it will also return value, return address it will contain, right? So that we have seen, we discussed in earlier course, but at the end of this slide set you will find that you can run through that, right? All right, so each thread has its own stack. When a new thread is created, OS allocates new stack and stores a pointer to that stack in thread control block, that we have already seen, right? This one. Okay, all right, when new thread is created, then of course there will be TCB will be created, and also a stack will be created. Okay, and then pointer to that stack will go into TCB. Okay, all right, all right, all right. The same point that we have discussed earlier. So here we can see this another view of the same concept. Okay, so let's assume that within a process, this is a process as shown as a circle here. There are 3 threads. Okay, each thread will have its own stack, and that stack contains the execution history. Okay, all the values are variables, etc., right? So same thing that we have discussed earlier here, somewhere earlier, right? It's nothing. Oh, okay, yeah, here nothing, but these are created. Okay, all right, that's it. A different view. All right. Okay, let's go back. Up. All right, so this it. So the basically go through slide set, because sometimes different picture gives you clarity, right? That's the reason I have given many diagrams, as many as possible. Okay, all right. So again, modern OS, when we in latest OSs, we have 2 stacks: kernel stack and user level stack. User level stack is something that we have seen just now, right? These ones. Okay, and apart from that, corresponding to each thread, okay, OS allocates a kernel stack. Okay, so in kernel stack now a lot of things can be kept, right? I mean, let's assume a thread has made a system call. Okay, then basically that process or in OS will execute something for that user, whatever the thread has requested. There will be some variables, etc., or intermittent value which OS can store in the stack corresponding to that thread in kernel area. Okay, all right. So usually this size of this is small. Okay, while user stack is quite large, usually around 1 MB. So these stacks, or the stack that we have discussed just now, the 2 stack corresponding to thread, this is usually large, but something that it creates in kernel space, or kernel stack corresponding to each thread. Assume T1 is here, then kernel stack corresponding to T1 will be small in size. Okay, all right. All right. Okay, where are we going to implement this thread? We have discussed so far that thread can be managed either in user space, like in older OSs, and in fact some new OSs also do it in user space, because very fast. User space things are very fast, right? Because in kernel space you have to make system call, which itself is quite expensive. Okay, so these can be implemented, threads can be implemented either in user space or in kernel space, or combination of the two. But most of the latest operating system like Linux latest version, if you service, that is actually implemented by kernel. So when a thread wants to create another thread, okay, wants to fork another thread, which is a create in terms of threads, then it will make a call to OS, and OS creates the thread. And thread goes off, or scheduling a thread is also done by OS. Okay, and when thread terminates, then also it's managed by kernel. Now this is little expensive process, but it gives a lot of flexibility, okay, to OS for manipulating and doing a lot of activities around thread.